Imagine waking up tomorrow with a severe throat infection. No antibiotics, no hospitals, no anesthesia, not even the slightest idea that bacteria exist. Now imagine something even stranger. You live in ancient Rome, the most powerful empire on earth. You're surrounded by more than 1 million people. Yet somehow, you survive. Not just for a few weeks, for decades. At first, that sounds impossible. Today, a small infection can become life-threatening without proper treatment. A deep cut can turn deadly. A broken bone can permanently change someone's life. So how did an entire civilization survive for centuries without modern medicine? The answer is far more surprising than you might think. Because even though the Romans had no microscopes, no antibiotics, and no understanding of germs, they accidentally developed practices that dramatically improved their chances of survival. And some of those ideas still influence medicine today. The first clue comes from archaeology. Across the former Roman Empire, archaeologists have uncovered thousands of human skeletons with something remarkable in common. Many show completely healed broken bones, broken arms, crushed legs, fractured ribs, even severe injuries that had fully healed long before the person died. These discoveries tell us something extraordinary. People weren't simply surviving terrible accidents. Someone was treating them. Someone knew how to stabilize broken limbs, care for wounds, and help injured people recover. The evidence suggests that Roman medical knowledge was far more practical than many people imagine. But the biggest surprise isn't hidden in the bones. It's hidden in the water. Ancient Rome built one of the most sophisticated water systems the ancient world had ever seen. Massive aqueducts carried fresh water for miles into crowded cities. Public fountains provided a constant supply of running water. Public baths encouraged regular bathing. And sewer systems helped move waste away from densely populated neighborhoods. Today, we know that clean water and proper sanitation reduce the spread of many infectious diseases. The Romans didn't know why these systems worked. They simply noticed a pattern. Cleaner cities often meant healthier people. Without realizing it, they were fighting disease in ways that science wouldn't fully explain for another 2,000 years. Roman physicians also believed that careful observation mattered. They recorded symptoms, compared treatments, shared medical knowledge, and built upon centuries of Greek medical traditions, especially the work of Hippocrates and later Galen, whose writings shaped European medicine for over 1,000 years. Of course, not every Roman treatment actually worked. Some were based on superstition, others were dangerously wrong. But mixed among those mistakes were techniques that were surprisingly effective, which raises an incredible question. If the Romans could improve survival without even knowing what caused disease, what else did they discover, simply by observing the human body? Now imagine you're a Roman legionary. You've been marching for days. Your armor is heavy. Your sandals have rubbed your feet raw. Every step opens another blister. Dust sticks to your skin. The smell of sweat, leather, smoke, and wet earth follows your army everywhere. Tonight you'll sleep in a temporary camp surrounded by hundreds of exhausted soldiers. There are no painkillers, no antibiotics, no emergency room waiting for you if something goes wrong. The greatest danger isn't always the enemy standing in front of you. Sometimes, it's the tiny cut on your hand that you barely noticed. A small wound could become infected. An infected wound could spread. And within days, a healthy soldier could be too weak to fight, or even die. The Romans understood this long before they understood why it happened. That's why Roman armies became obsessed with discipline, not just in battle, but in everyday life. At the end of almost every march, soldiers built an organized military camp before they rested. They dug defensive trenches, created drainage systems, designated areas for cooking, separated waste from sleeping quarters, and made sure clean water was available whenever possible. To a modern observer, it looks surprisingly familiar. Today, we recognize these habits as basic sanitation. The Romans saw them as practical military discipline. They had no idea bacteria existed. But experience had taught them that dirty camps produced more dead soldiers than many battles ever did. When someone was injured, treatment began immediately. Doctors carefully removed dirt, cloth, and broken fragments from wounds. Clean linen bandages were wrapped around injuries. Wine or vinegar was sometimes poured over cuts. The Romans believed these liquids helped clean a wound. Modern research suggests they weren't entirely wrong. While neither was comparable to modern antiseptics, both contain compounds that can slow the growth of certain microorganisms under some conditions. Another surprising remedy was honey. It wasn't considered magical. It was simply something many physicians believed helped wounds heal. Today, specialized medical honey is still used in certain types of wound care because of its antibacterial properties. Without realizing it, Roman doctors had stumbled upon treatments that science would eventually explain centuries later. Surgery, however, was another story. There was no modern anesthesia, no sterile operating room, no machines monitoring the patient's heartbeat. If someone needed an arrow removed, the doctor had to work quickly, very quickly. Patients were often given strong wine or herbal mixtures to dull the pain, but they remained awake for most procedures. Every second mattered. The longer the operation lasted, the greater the chance of severe blood loss, shock, or infection. Archaeologists have discovered Roman surgical instruments that are astonishingly sophisticated. Scalpels, forceps, hooks, bone levers, catheters, even metal speculums. Many resemble tools that would continue to appear in medicine for centuries. But here's the part most people never hear. The Romans didn't survive because they had miracle cures. They survived because they built systems. Military hospitals known as valetudinaria allowed wounded soldiers to recover instead of being abandoned after battle. Doctors learned from experience. Engineers built cleaner cities. Commanders enforced hygiene. Each improvement seemed small on its own. Together they quietly saved countless lives. Ironically, one of history's greatest medical successes was achieved by people who had absolutely no idea what germs even were. The most fascinating part of Roman medicine isn't what they knew. It's what they discovered without fully understanding it. For thousands of years, humans survived by paying close attention to patterns. Which wounds healed, which foods caused sickness, which places were safer to live, which habits seemed to keep people healthier. The Romans were no different. They didn't know about bacteria. They couldn't see viruses. They had never heard of DNA or the immune system. Yet generation after generation, they slowly built a collection of practical knowledge based on observation, experience, and survival. In many ways, they were practicing one of humanity's oldest instincts. Learn from yesterday, or don't survive tomorrow. That instinct hasn't disappeared. It's still part of who we are. Every time we wash a wound, drink clean water, visit a doctor, or build cities with sanitation systems, we're benefiting from thousands of years of lessons learned by civilizations that had no idea why their methods worked. Modern medicine didn't suddenly appear. It was built piece by piece, mistake by mistake, discovery by discovery. And ancient Rome helped lay some of those foundations. Of course, Roman medicine had serious limitations. Countless people still died from infections, childbirth complications, epidemics, and injuries that would be easily treated today. Their understanding of the human body was incomplete. Many treatments were ineffective. Some were even dangerous, but despite all of that, the Roman world managed to support millions of people, maintain enormous cities, and sustain one of the largest empires in history for centuries. Not because they had perfect medicine, but because they constantly adapted, they observed, they improved, and they refused to stop learning from experience. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson ancient Rome leaves us. Progress doesn't always begin with complete knowledge. Sometimes, it begins with curiosity. So the next time you take an antibiotic, clean a small cut, or turn on a faucet without thinking twice, remember this. For most of human history, survival depended on people who had none of those advantages. And somehow, against all odds, they still found ways to endure. Maybe the real miracle wasn't Roman medicine. Maybe it was the incredible ability of human beings to learn, adapt, and survive even when they didn't yet understand the invisible world around them.